had it, Jim didn't ever found out. Everybody else around me passed me had one.
So it could have been you.
But, well, it wasn't. They said, we're gonna run back down there and check again. And about a little bit later, the electricity came on.
We're up
I
and over.
backed up and said, it was on. Yeah, you got it.
See, Ron?
You're right there. We're gonna have a rescue. That'd be a good thing,
You know, we never lost power, but it knocked some kind of fuse in our phone line quit ringing.
yeah.
Like you could call out and people could call in, but there was no ringing. Crazy.
Of course, I couldn't look any other house on her cell phone, but I could. When she came to the store, she did. There's something on that one.
Yeah. But yeah, odd, very odd.
But it was starting to be a little tricky. I don't mind it so much, man, I don't like cold. My lowest electricity bills are in the dead of summer.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
My highest one,
She likes hot weather.
Like it to be warm.
she don't mind being warm, but she
That was
doesn't.
my wife. When I left, he had the windows up. He used to be saying that. Now come the summertime, turn the unit to 70.
I'm trying to relate to that.
You try to keep her
But I'm in the
72.
work to get me that, what
About
that generator
78,
called?
79.
I would die. That's
Me
hot.
too. I couldn't do it.
What's that?
Turn it to 79 in the summer.
They used to have it. 70.
That's how it's supposed to be.
The guy told me that,
They-
what that is, he said if you leave it at one temperature, they're like 70, so you better off.
We don't do that though. You get cold and turn it off, and get hot and turn it on. We do it.
Well, at night, we turn it, when we go to bed, we turn it down to 65 during the day. And then in the morning, turn it up to 68. Stay 68 till bedtime.
I don't like to sleep when it's hot. I will wake up all stopped up. I like to sleep when it's cold and then with an electric blanket. You know?
So I just sleep with the blanket, not electric. I used to sleep with electric when I first got married. You wasn't here then. No smoke.
I like to sleep.
I like to
With
get in a
electric
warm
blanket,
bed. Now,
you turn the
I
fan
turn
on.
it down
Yeah, I
like
turn my fan
low,
on.
but we sleep with a box fan. There's a box fan in every house, in every room.
I like the sound of them
We
too.
do.
Man sleeps with
That's
like
it.
Chase and Carrie both have to have a fan, even in
Yeah.
the wintertime.
We carry them to hotels. Like, we don't stay in a hotel without one.
Right.
Yeah,
I just like to know.
I do too.
There's a lot of people like it, I guess. I'm not that way.
And all of my kids, Jackson and Abby, both at college, have to have a fan, a box fan to sleep. I didn't grow up like that. That's a Mary Jim thing.
So what happens if they get roommates that don't like that?
They fortunately have their own rooms, the way they
Oh,
get
okay.
set up, they have their own rooms.
Oh, yeah, that's the way Chestnut works, you know, they have, this, kind of a, you go in and it's a bathroom and all, or two of them, but in separate rooms, that's what.
Yeah, yeah. Abby lives at, Columns, which is kind of like a little apartment. It has, you walk in, it has a living room and a full kitchen.
Well, that's good.
And then her side, she has a room and her roommate has a room and they share a bathroom. And then their suite mates have a room and share a bathroom. So there's 4 of them. But it really is. They have a full dishwasher, oven, stove,
Man.
microwave, refrigerator.
All we did was a room.
I know. I had a microwave that I put on my bedside table. But yeah, they got a full kitchen.
Gee, we had a room and 4 people in it.
One big room.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
Cottage down there, too.
Biggest mistake I made. Several of them living in the house we had married. And I didn't do a whole lot on campus activities. And I meet people now. Because I would go to class, go to work, go home. I ain't do nothing about it now, but I had just got out the service, so my main concern was getting a degree.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I wish that'd have been mine when I first started.
See, well, I had fun in college. My kids are having fun in college. Yeah, as much fun as you can, COVID, but.
Is there some coffee made in there?
Yes, sir. It's on.
Do I receive? I don't think we got my sign.
I
Yeah,
seen him on the road, way back.
we did talk yesterday. Pardon?
I'm gonna take the car from the guy, leave.
I wanna live.
Yep.
It's not good.
Jerry, do y'all sell dog leashes?
Got one with the, got a tree leaf with a chain, or got one that's just all nylon? Both. Got a double nylon and a single nylon.
Hello. Hey, Michael, does my microphone have to be on right now?
You don't want it on, we can wait.
I
till-
took it off.
Okay.
But I have to make sure. I'm done.
That's good. How are you?
I'm good. Can you unlock my cell phone?
Unlock it how?
Well, it says,
We got a
present? Put your
You got a
password in.
present.
and it
Yeah.
has to be 6 numbers.
You don't know what this is.
No.
Oh, it's a mask?
So the
Maybe I
top
should
is
look at my
here.
present.
And I take some under the hook for you.
Maybe I should look at my present. I don't like the one I'm wearing.
Well, yeah. Put your new one on.
Let's see if I can wear this tonight. Can I wear this?
You gonna mess your hair? No, you didn't. You got it.
I feel a lot better than
Yeah.
some of them benefit.
Oh, I can breathe. I can breathe.
Haley made those.
Those are cute, Kay.
What is she
Did you
making?
see it?
Yeah. Very.
I
Thank you, President.
Oh,
It's cute, isn't it?
That's our theme for this year,
You
that
are
Jimmy Sampson came up with, join the culture with the carnival.
she wants a raise.
We hear you. Let's put a price down.
I was just trying to let Michael know he needs to update the title on the YouTube broadcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, coffee. And there's donuts too.
It's what?
Donuts, coffee and donuts. And they're really good.
Well, look, hey, y'all know what to do. Oh, Jay, I'm good. I can breathe under this. I thought she was on
Join the culture.
Okay.
You know, every year the football team has a new theme that has a C in it.
Right.
Yes, you can. We'll leave that walking, we went to a camp and we went to a state park and
That does get better.
Well, good, you can breathe, huh?
Maybe. If it don't fall, the glasses will.
I still remember the gas man from the service.
Gas knife?
Yeah, I've been not glad. I'm mad.
Uh-huh.
I said, oh, I'm gonna stop this, they might think I'm gonna come somewhere around.
I got my phone off.
I know, I put mine on silent.
I'm gonna vibrate, which I think it is, that'd be okay.
Oh, no. It's so
Oh,
cute.
sure, it's okay.
It ain't that
Well, we're
bad.
gonna have some spots.
We
Uh-huh.
don't cost so much. She wasn't saying that. I had to talk to her.
I got so tickled at
She's
my
quiet,
picture.
so you get to know her when she crack her open too. I robbed it from Facebook.
And I'm hugging the kids, the two girls.
She really
And I'm
enjoyed
looking
it.
up to look at it, and I was laughing because back behind me, Georgia started sitting right there.
Uh-huh.
She's like a parent sitting on my shoulder. I just laughed. I gotta call her, she retired.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
call her and tell her, you need to come look.
Yeah,
I'll mess with
yeah.
her. But it was so funny, I was looking at it, and I started laughing.
I didn't even catch it. I'll go look at it. But is that stumped you going? Kaylee did better.
Oh, yeah.
Kaylee did that.
It definitely helped.
Nice, thank you.
You can sew that good, Caitlin?
Sir?
You can sew that good?
Oh, no, I didn't sew them.
Oh,
She put the
Mrs.
design
Pam
on.
provided them. She might have sewed them.
No, I did not sew them.
She can order them that fast.
That's right.
you know,
What other? Is that done?
Yeah, I done there's only one in there, two in there, and I got the last two.
Okay.
You need the yellow?
No, we got them all,
Okay.
except for this one.
you know,
Board stuff,
Which I'm,
that's what I do too, it's just
Oh.
basically a big filing
I'll
system.
get it right.
Can I sit
Yeah,
down
we have
before
to
it
pay them
comes?
annually,
Oh,
but they
you know,
sent me this last.
she texted
So
about
they sent.
Yeah.
showing the, accomplishment of the board.
Well, she didn't know anything like text me, she didn't know where it was.
So it's very brief.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Nothing.
well, no. It's coming out. It feels like it's
It
very
ain't,
brief.
it ain't getting hospitality.
good.
Care of athletics.
Uh-huh.
It ain't just kids.
Yeah.
Who's in trouble tonight, Mr. King? You got me 1 month, you got him 1 month. Who's in trouble
What you
tonight?
mean?
Well, now look at here, I got a plaque.
Like, didn't she just?
I don't know.
Would y'all
Only
say,
time she-
You were telling
she
her about
stayed home
George,
watching.
you called my name, and I said, I didn't do it. I told her.
Second
You
time.
got him last time.
Oh, he,
you know, send everybody,
I thought he was gonna be doing it tonight.
everybody on my bus line.
you never know.
It's a seven.
Okay.
No, seven.
It was,
You never
well,
know.
it was
You
able.
Oh, no.
You can test out now on day seven.
Never.
And so I
The other day,
They told her she'd come, they told her she'd come back.
we do a memorial,
And
and we send in a memorial.
Maybe they misunderstood.
People that
yeah,
die,
the
Christmas
CDC
and
came back
stuff.
and said that
And we
if you
send
have
them
no
to the graveyard or
symptoms,
to
you can,
school
and you
or
test
something.
negative on day seven, you can
And we
come back.
have lost so many people this way.
10 is if you're positive.
Where's this from?
But still,
From the bank.
It's 14
Some
and less.
disagree
I
with
do
that.
too. But at least they gave us the 7 if you could test out.
I'm
But
accepted.
they exempted athletes, so if you're an
Yeah,
athlete, you have to.
what I mean by that.
Really?
I used to be so afraid of dying.
So aggravated about that.
But see, I wanted to try to get out of the religious one. 2 years ago. I really realized
It's tricky.
through the Holy Spirit, helping me out.
I'm glad y'all are the ones making
What this
decisions.
is.
I don't see any other way.
We gonna leave here one way or the other.
Oh, yeah, one day. One
And
day.
I know it's stressful.
Right, right. Well, and that's why there's
I
a
understand.
question on there about whether we send them home or they go.
I just thank God. I got
You know,
lots
we
of times since I've been retired.
have to
Just been
quarantine.
different. I do a lot of
Then
thinking.
that's.
But I can't go
But
nowhere.
if you have to quarantine because you went and you did this and such on your.
Things stop them out. Things like
Yeah, but
Are
that,
we
I still don't agree with that. If they get quarantined, they quarantine.
recognize the board now. Most people around here don't even know the board now.
I don't either.
No. My people know me.
And if you're gonna come home and you're not,
They know
they don't, you don't. they
My
shouldn't be
board,
doing
my
that.
people know me.
Right.
Well-
That's another part of the decision, right?
They reach out to me every day.
I mean, I wouldn't.
I'm talking to him,
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, I'm
That
sorry.
everybody in my ward knows me.
Well, you got to people now that leave.
There's
No, I don't
definitely
have a
some
soul
of the
about
stay-at-home
400.
business, you know,
How
as
many
far
you
as tax
got?
collecting and stuff.
Oh,
How
definitely.
many you got?
Oh.
I said, there's definitely some of the stay-at-home
They are.
as far as the code, as far as tax collecting and stuff.
I lost them.
But we've been up,
Is there taxes up?
Yes,
especially in the past 2 months.
Yes.
Several
I-
months.
and I think, you know, now eBay
Hey,
does
darling.
the taxes back And I think Amazon does the taxes back too, so we're ordering online, those taxes come back to our parents.
Oh, yeah.
Maria, would you care for
Well,
this
that's
problem?
I know.
probably
No, ma'am, I'm okay.
I was
Thank
right
you.
if they're starting to do that, they do that.
I'm real,
It's 35 and 32%
I'm an old man.
the past 2 months.
You got to remind me again who you
That's a
are.
nice bonus.
Tommy and Mary Brown's daughter, Maria Brown. I graduated with honor.
Oh, Tommy.
He just figured it out.
Just now?
No, well, see, a couple of weeks ago, I went to my doctor because I was getting upset. Well, I was getting worried because I'm forgetting a lot. So, he told me, he said, Bro James, I was telling about all these misplacing keys. He said, look, misplacing the keys is normal. He says, when you get to the point where you don't know what those keys are for.
Sarah, you have a problem.
That's true.
Well, I'll tell you what, get you a big purse and you'll never find it.
That's why I want to know my home.
You see, I'm being honest. I tell people, when I'm retired, I can't sit around and do
Find something to piddle with.
I tell you what
That's
you
what I
do.
do.
You just try to go down to the house and over your list.
She'll keep you busy.
That's a honeydew list you don't want.
I could not run my break.
During the week, and I.
Tired of not doing it.
I'll tell you one thing, though, I tell you, you're talking about a list, but one thing that my father-in-law told me, is when you retire, you need to make a list, sit down and make a list of everything you need to do. And then do it off that list, because you won't remember it.
There you go.
I could not, when my breaker slipped. Well, it took me a while, I'm so stupid to realize my breaker flipped. Because I can't run the electric heater in the microwave. And so I went out there to open my breaker box. I could not open that breaker box. I beat on it, I know it has to slide down. It has to mash that thing on the bottom and it slides down and then it'll open. Couldn't open it. I went out there 2 or 3 times, never could. And I thought, well, now, there's gonna be somebody coming along here in a minute. I'm gonna flag down, they don't want my breaker box. Well, here come out. Otis's cousin, not mine. And I went to waving at him, I said, come here, don't you open my breaker box? Well, he just went right there and tapped on it. And he was strong enough too, that's something else, I need to lift weights. And open my breaker box. That's just stuff James can't do anymore.
No.
I don't have much. Honestly, I do not. Matter of fact, I'm joking about it.
I've been doing it all my whole life. When I was working, I was sticking notes.
Oh, you can come out office.
But I forget.
I'm
People's
outside.
names, I'm terrible with people's names. My father could meet somebody and 10 years later call him down.
Oh, no, I can't even call anybody's name.
I see them in that store, I know them, and sometimes their name leaves.
Yeah.
Hey, Maddie. How are you, darling? You still in love with us here at the school board
I'm gonna go
office?
get a pad. Real quick.
Well, anyway.
Sorry.
I happened one, and like today, when I was able to take one and crumble it up and put it in the trash can, I was like.
You feel so accomplished.
I do.
Yes, yeah, I know the feeling.
Well, I know you put her on. I need to call somebody right now. I don't remember who it is. But it's somebody.
It'll come to you.
And I just put it off to tomorrow. And I run out to Friday and I said, I hadn't called them. I own a timeshare. If anyone would like a timeshare, I'll give it. And I tried to get out of it. It was gonna cost me like $3,000. I said, it was nice talking with you. That's what I had to do. So I hung up.
It might be worth it.
Huh?
It might be worth it.
You want it?
No, I don't.
Hey, it might be worth it for you to pay the $3,000 to get out.
I don't know.
I put my timeshare behind my car.
You go smart as people in the world. My husband bought that money, and he's begging him not to. Don't ever listen to your husband.
You hear that, Jerry?
Well, I wasn't listening, I thought.
She said, don't ever listen to your husband.
Oh, Gary
George's got a hard time
He
sharing.
knew what's well. He make his mind up something that goes.
Randy, those satsumas were probably some of the best I've ever
Oh my
eaten.
goodness,
That's
yes.
sweet, sweet, sweet.
They were
Were they
good. Those satsumas he brought
Yeah,
us last
yeah.
night, they were
They
good.
didn't
I'm
last
still
long. My
eating.
husband, he went in quick on them.
Yeah.
My great granddaughter was dessert.
I probably had enough left on one tree that I could have brought everybody some more.
Wow.
But I'm trying to get them all down. I've been going by, I pick a couple and I eat them and go and buy some new ones.
They were good.
They really were.
The more cold you get on them, the sweeter they get.
Really? Well, buddy, we've had a little cold,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sweeter and
nice.
sweeter.
and I think it's gonna be cold,
Tonight,
it's gonna be cold tomorrow. The wind's gonna blow it.
yeah, I think it's supposed to be coming in tonight, or I heard them say.
The wind started blowing pretty good this week.
Let me put a little, one of my piece of cotton. Did you talk to your little bitty boys? Did they have a good day?
They did. Actually, Bridger won Student of the Year, so he was super. Yeah, so I talked to him. Yeah. They let him call me and tell me.
Asked me,
I hope he wins state.
I tell you what,
Were you, was he on the interview? Yeah.
and it's totally different than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
The student, they approach it the way they can talk. And that's right. I won't be surprised if you don't make it.
Oh, yeah, that's because he's been in 4-H all his life.
I totally, I will say, it prepares you for leadership and to speak in front of people, and, it does.
Well, that was one of the questions. And being in the 4-H. If the kid have an experience that, they're not gonna be able to, he wasn't nervous at all.
Oh, he was.
You just didn't
He
realize.
didn't show.
He hit it well, that's good, that's
That's
good.
really good.
Yeah.
She has braces,
But I tell you what, that, all 3 of them are phenomenal.
Oh, we've got some really good kids here.
I tell you what, shocked me when I was I did that. Oh my Lord. I had one of them, I said, are you sure you still in there? Grown. And they so intelligent.
Yeah, that's smart.
They are good. Really are.
Grab the wrong track card or the microphone and then
They don't get jealous of one another about that.
It's, definitely a battle. It is, they're very
My
competitive.
brother and I were 1 year apart in school, and then so we had a lot of the same friends,
Yeah.
and teachers. We
Yeah.
were in the same classes in high school. and all that kind of stuff.
Now, they got different personalities.
They do, they are daylight and dark, yes,
And now, when it comes time to get together, they're just like that.
they are.
They're all the fuss and fight.
We've been really strategic in that, like, we don't want to compete against each other, so like Bridger pitches, Lander pitches, and so they do that. Bridger quarterbacks, Lander wide receivers. They play different positions, and so we try to put them in situations where they can complement each other.
Right.
This is the first year I've ever put them in the same class. I've always separated them. But with COVID, I thought if one of them has to go home, I want them both, you know. So, and they've done okay. I was worried about it. But, like when they were both competing at the school level, it was tough, you know, because I was trying to prepare both of them for it, and when Lander didn't, I just, sit down with them and say, it's okay to be happy for your brother and upset for yourself, you know, at the same time. But it's,
I remember growing up, my brother was straight A student. Straight A student. ABC. Mostly BC. And I made a D in writing in the 5th grade.
I heard this.
And we were walking home, and he said, "What's your book?" He always wanted to see my book. He always was straight A.
yeah.
What you got? What you got? on and on, so finally I showed it to him, he said, you got a D, Daddy's gonna whoop you.
Oh, thanks a lot.
So when we got home, and they looked at it, they looked at it, and
So you took it to work.
they looked, oh, that's pretty great.
Yeah. I had to really try hard to not compare and to, and they're each their own.
Because that's what he said, I
And the guy thought I needed this nice little experiment.
But
It's a
I
challenge.
heard this statement
Karen was
twice.
gonna have to be out.
What would you do?
Without him, Mrs. Foster.
yeah, well, nice.
Because she
I'm gonna make recess long.
had.
Rationale is, because the kid come out of recess, and he tried to go to sleep. But if he doesn't a little longer, recess. Something to think about. So when he is retired.
Oh, was that Bridget's older one, trying to convince you for a longer recess?
Because I'm going to prompt it and all.
Well, he does want to be a politician, right?
That's what he said.
We got a frosty too.
Well, for the longest time, they wanted to be a pro athlete. I said, y'all, you gotta have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Can happen. So we were preparing, and I said, what do you want to be? He either wants to be a computer coding specialist or a politician. And I was like, what makes you want to do that?
But the creative coding, not just any
You know, the
kind of.
best-
Oh, yeah.
The best thing about all this.
What is that?
Yes, we're trying
Sneak in behind the.
You know, my mom was a state secretary in the debate. Yeah, that was her thing.
It's good because
Be careful though, it keeps it hot.
and I see you building a snowman.
I was taking your picture.
I told your husband. I said, that's snowman, you know it was snowman.
That's a lot of work. I was sore the next day. When you roll it, you get it so big.
Quite a bit of snow in Spring Valley is what.
Lifted up on my feet.
Quite a bit of snow in Spring Valley.
Standing while I live this morning.
Did you see how tall?
Yes,
Did you write that? Did you see how tall the eighth trip is?
She said, when I made it look cute. Style. She said.
We got together for Thanksgiving.
So she didn't do a whole lot of arguing, huh?
No, other than the people trying to get a policy.
Right. It's close.
I can see the difference.
Melinda, would you lead us in prayer?
First of all, Heaven, we thank you for this opportunity, one more time, to come and discuss the board's business. It was fair and carry, though. Let us do what is right for all that's involved. In your precious name, we pray, amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Mr. Randy Rance.
Here.
Ruth Ann McKee. Melinda Ballard. Here. Baron Glass.
Here.
Maria Bass.
Here.
Gary Castles.
Here.
James King.
Here.
All right. Item A is executive committee report. Randy?
Everything was in order. One thing I would like to add is that the tax collection has been really outstanding the past couple of months, and it has really helped us a lot. And but everything was good, and everything's in order at this point.
All right. Motion we approve the executive committee report.
I so moved.
All right, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Item B is approved minutes from the December 10th, 2020 board meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the 2020 meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. Everybody in favor say aye. All right, item C is approved a one-time stipend of $250 in 2021 for maintenance personnel George Duncan, Donald Martinez, Charles Smith, Calvin Wooten, and Ronnie Blake.
I make a motion, we approve this.
All right, so that's it. Everybody in favor?
Yes.
All right, item D is resolution to name the Caldwell Watchman the official journal for 2021.
So motion.
I'll second
All right. Everybody in favor say aye. All right, resolution item E, resolution to appoint the Caldwell Parish School Board President and Vice President for 2021.
Who is the vice president?
Randy.
Well, I make a motion to keep the same two as we did last year. We have now.
Is it together? No, we do it together.
That's fine.
Should be able to.
No, Nick,
Yeah.
Nick, since there's two officers, you need to do them separate.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we need a motion. President first.
Nominate Gary.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Thank you.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Mr.
King.
King.
Mr. King.
All right, so roll call.
I'll do a roll call for Mr. Gary for president for 2021. Mr. Randy Rance,
Yes.
Ms. McKee,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Glass is zoned, Ms. Bass. Yes. Mr. Castles, and Mr. King. Okay. Now for vice president, I'll need a motion and a second, and
I make a motion with Randy Rents as our vice president for 21.
I'll second it.
okay, one moment. All right, roll call for 2021 Vice President, Mr. Randy Rance. Mr. Randy Rance is first, of course. Mrs. McKee,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Glass is zoomed, Ms. Bass. Yes. Mr. Castles.
Yes.
Ms. King. Mr. King. Mr. King.
Now we can tell.
Okay, guys, thank you.
All right. All right, item L, discuss possibly extending the emergency paid sick leave policy COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, so you have a copy of it in your folder. It's very similar to what I texted you early this week. We do have some pros and cons that are underlined there that David added to us. So I think that just to kind of set the preface for this, Congress passed the emergency paid leave, sick leave act for COVID-19 back at the beginning of the fall. And so it was mandated, it was an unfunded mandate. So they told us you have to give them 10 COVID sick days, but there was no money attached to it. So that's an important thing to think about, is that we're still tasked with the burden of covering those days. But it expired on December the 31st. And so It's not going to be renewed. It has been communicated to us that it's the local board's decision whether you want to continue to do that or not. And so I had John Geis sent to me, and I forgot it, it's on my desk. But it basically is wording that says that we could just extend the provisions of the sick leave until whatever date we decide to do that. And so when he sent that to me and said this is what, I think it was Jefferson Davis Parish was the policy, I started asking around. Of course, other superintendents were asking too because we're all trying to work through this. And so the summary of my findings are here with these bullet points. And basically of the 13 districts that responded to me, they're all extending the COVID days at the expense of the board. 4 of those districts are allowing the COVID days only if they're exposed at school. So it would be that you contracted or you were notified as being a close contact because of your job at school. So 4 of those are doing that. 3 of the districts are extending them through March the 31st. 10 of them are extending them through June the 30th. 6 districts are allowing their teachers to continue teaching virtually without docking any days. And I listed the districts that applied to that. It looks like a lot of them are south of us, except for Claiborne, which is not south. 5 districts do not allow their teachers to teach virtually, and those are the districts Concordia, LaSalle, Bienville, Tensas, and then one that I don't have saved in my phone, so I wasn't sure who it was. And then there's 1 district that allows teachers to teach virtually, but they still take their sick or their COVID days that way, and that's Richland Parish. So that kind of brought up a conversation that I had with our district leaders, and so basically the directors and the supervisors, we all kind of sat in here and hashed out the pros and cons for each of these scenarios. Then I brought it to the school leaders because I want to make sure they have a voice in it as well, and so we had a staff meeting on our snow day the other day, and we talked about that. And so together we came up with this list of pros and cons. And so the first one is, and so really we have 3 things to try to decide. Are we going to extend the leave? Are we going to regulate what qualifies you? And then the virtual teaching. So the first piece here, the pros of extending the sick leave would be, of course, it's still rampant in our community. And so an extension is an effort to reduce the stress on our employees. The cons are the financial burden here, and so I'm going to let David kind of explain how this kind of works.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
You, David.
I'm sorry. In your packet somewhere, so you have a leave activity. This is a 1 page, has leave activity at the bottom. Okay. And yeah. Okay, it's a 1 pager. Maddie and Carla and I came together and put this thing together. The top portion reflects $121,000 that we have paid out in sick leave for Corona days. That is strictly not it's a cost, but I mean, we're gonna pay the teacher no matter what. So, if you're gonna pay a teacher $45,000, you get $44,000 of direct service out of the employee. You get $1,000 of Corona day that we're still paying, so it's, kind of a soft cost. The substitutes that we're paying out, we paid out $13,904 for this year, related to those teachers that were out for Corona. So, it's kind of touchy-feely number on what you want to talk about on that, whether it's the $13,000 or the true or the other $135,000 added in there. Then we also did a sub-wages. It's 4 pages. It's landscape. It's like this. And the important columns are the yellow one and the green one. The yellow one represents last year's 6 months. The green one represents this year's 6 months for sub-wages. And really we're running right at the same number, $64,000 last year, $65,800 this year. So $1,700 increase. So collectively, 2 years are largely the same. And I don't know whether that might be part of the mask wearing where you're not getting the flu and losing teachers for that reason. I don't know.
I was surprised that those numbers were so close
Yep.
from last year to this year, and so in my mind, I was like, okay, well, that's not so bad. But then I also know that a lot of schools are pulling their paras, and they're pulling additional support, people who are coming in and covering classes. And we have a hard time finding subs, That's been a real challenge for our principals is finding substitutes to come in. So if they're not coming in, you're not paying anybody, for that. So, but I wanted to know what the numbers look like.
I'm a lot of space. Y'all did pay those college kids when they subbed.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Was that a special program?
No, that was us struggling to find substitute teachers.
Okay.
And I knew that they were all home on Christmas break, and so we just started reaching out and saying, hey, would you come sub?
They need money.
And they were,
It was a good thing.
They got paid. Everybody except Abby, she didn't get paid, she can't get paid, so she volunteered, so.
That is not bad.
Yeah, that's what she said too, but it is what it is.
All right, are we gonna need resolutions? We're gonna need resolutions for each one of these.
So, okay, so
Headings, the extension, the conditions.
we have to
and the virtual
decide, we
telework.
have to decide what we're gonna do. So that was just the extending of the leave. And so we have to think about, do we want to extend the leave till March? Do we want to extend the leave till June, or do we want to not extend the leave?
Personally, I believe that, we need to go with, as far as the extension, we definitely need an extension, but I feel like that we should extend it till March 31 rather than the full 6 months. If we need be later on, we can come back and we can add to it. We can extend it another 3
So
months.
come March, we need to extend it to June.
Right, if we need it.
Okay.
But if not, I feel like, in all fairness to the teachers, because there's so many things that are involved, so many variables involved with these teachers. Especially if they have children at home that are going to be in quarantine, then they have to stay at home with them, and then they have to use their sick days for that. And so it just adds up. It's not just one little thing as far as this goes.
And so one thing to note is that this extension would mean, you said they had the 10 days, and once the law said when the 10 days are up, you're done, you start using your own sick leave, okay? If they've already used their 10 days in this fall, you don't get an additional 10 days in the spring. It's just for those, if you did not use them in the fall, you would be able to be eligible to use them in the spring. So for example, I haven't been quarantined. I haven't tested positive, so I didn't use any of those COVID days. So if moving forward, it would basically make it fair for those who didn't get it in the fall but are getting it now. So.
Well, then, that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we extend, as far as option 2, extend the provisions of the emergency paid sick leave back until March 31, 2021.
Nick,
Yes,
I have a question.
sure.
What would be wrong with extending it through the end of the school year? And if you don't need it, you just can retract and give you the discretion to do it. Because again, those teachers and everybody that's working need to feel, comfortable. They need to feel like there's a cushion. We always say that, we support them or whatever. I don't see why we just give them that cushion. And if you need to, retract on it, you can retract it because, those people are, they're afraid. You just stated that you can't get people to come in to work. Last year is not as worse as this year, and you see numbers steady going up. I'm not against what Randy said, I'm that because I can't vote anyway. I'm just asking if you consider that, at least they'll feel somewhat, of a cushion that's there. But if you need to retract it, if we don't need to go beyond the 31st, then that'll be fine. But if you're gonna vote on the 31st, I can't vote anyway. But I just think they need to, feel some sense of security that, we're not. Trying to, because the money is not there. We don't know what's going to be like. You and I talking on the phone. We don't know what the future may hold. But I just don't want them to, feel like, well, the last, 6 months were the same. It's different. But if Randy's going to make that, I'm not in opposition of it. I just want to throw it out.
Well, my point was, was that we can go ahead and extend it to 3 months, and then at the end of 3 months, if we need to extend it further, then we will extend it further. But if we don't need to, my wish is, and my hope is, that some of these teachers will start being able to get, get in line to be, that will be vaccinated, and that at some point, maybe by the end of
Right,
March,
right,
you know,
right.
they'll be covered, hopefully.
Right, and it's, all I'm saying is in reverse of what Randy's saying. With the 31st, you gotta come back and you gotta, have another meeting. If you go through it and give you the discretion to, you know, to retract on it, it's basically the same thing, just in reverse. But if he's going to do that, I'm not in
I
opposition.
don't agree to go to the end of the school year. I agree with that.
Do you mean tell me they don't get the 10 days period?
10 COVID days.
If
No, they still have their sick days.
I understand.
Yeah.
But they don't get the 10?
That's what the law says, was you get 10 COVID days on top of your sick days.
Right.
So basically,
I've never
it's
seen
10
that.
paid days to be at home, whether you're quarantined or you're sick
Yeah.
or you're taking care of somebody who is quarantined
But
or sick.
if you're quarantined at home and you're teaching, you don't have to take any days.
That's a whole different, that's the third.
Right, but Nick,
That's what it should be.
and that's the thing that we discussed. If it's COVID related, they should take those COVID days. If they're not taking those COVID days, then they should take sick leave or something else. But the COVID days, to my understanding, you get reimbursed for that, right?
No, we do not. We don't. Now, it's not affect the employee, goes home and their day, they're not docked any wages, they're not docked any sick days, they're docked their COVID days. And once they run out of 10 COVID days, then that's gone and you're into your sick days if you're not there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's COVID days, you know, I think you should take COVID.
Well, if they don't get the 10 days, explain to me, an old bus driver, what difference does it make?
Well, it's 10 on top of your normal sick days. So you get your normal
But you're gonna
allotment.
get, okay,
Does that make sense?
no, it's okay.
In other words, if you haven't used your 10 days to date, to this date, then your COVID days. Then if we don't extend this, then they won't be able to use the 10 days. But by extending it, they'll be able to, if you haven't used them, you'll be able to use them.
But I'll go ahead and tell you,
But that's just for those who have used it, right, Nick?
Right.
Yeah, if you've already used your 10 COVID days, you're done. Yeah, you're not getting a whole new set of days.
And we're already in January the 15th now, so they're basically getting, you know, 60 days.
Doug, where do you get 60 days?
February,
March.
They don't get a 10 days period.
Yeah. I mean, you have
You just
a
get 10
total
days.
amount of 10 days that could be used at no penalty to the employee if they have to go home for quarantine or COVID. Am I saying that right? Yeah, okay.
Is that right?
Okay.
Yes.
So the first decision, it just needs to be, I guess you make a motion. Do we want to make a motion to extend it through March or through June? And, I mean, if you want to make the motion to extend it through March, we can go around. And if you want to go March. If you
I
don't,
think we discussed it. And
Nick, like I said, I'm not in objection to what Randy's saying. Again, I just threw it out there. And if you don't need to use it, then, you know, you can always retract on it. But I mean, it's no issue of debate if they're gonna vote on.
I'll be honest, I'd rather not retract. I'd rather not say, oh, you have these, but now I've changed my mind and we'll pull them back. Either we
Well,
give them.
you said it again, if you go to the 31st, you'll have to extend it.
Right, but then that would be a new decision moving
that'd be another
forward.
decision.
Yeah, just
I
like
don't see
today.
why that's any
And
different.
at the March board meeting, we could say, well, it's still bad, we can go on to June.
Right,
We would
right.
have to do it in March, though, but you can't wait till the 31st, and
Right.
you're 2 weeks
Yeah.
into June,
Right.
or in the end of April, I mean.
So you're gonna leave them 60
March
days, right,
meeting,
60,
we
65 days.
what you're
By
saying.
then, we ought to have some idea
Right.
what's going on.
We'll
If
know
we revisit it in March, that might be
Right,
okay.
yeah, we definitely revisit.
Before the deadline.
In
of the
March,
31st.
before the deadline.
Yes.
I would drop it.
Yeah.
At the March meeting, we can set it up that we decide if we want to extend it.
That would be March 11th.
And we would let the employees know that.
Well, they, they'll know that for the meeting.
And if it's still like it is now, there's no reason not to go ahead and do it to June to give them a chance to get out of school.
I agree.
But if everything's starting to kind of clear up, then, you know, you kind of look at it different. But I'd hate for you to have to say, oh, well, we're not doing it anymore, and then somebody come in and say,
I see your
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I don't wanna
yeah.
give and take, but I get both sides. So that's,
It's give and take on either side.
This seems one way half a dozen another.
well, somebody make a motion and
Well, I made a
we'll.
motion, I've already made one. I made the motion that we extend provisions of the Emergency Sick Leave Act until March 31st, 2021. for those who have not used their allotted benefits.
Right.
And then we'll look at it again in March and see if we need to extend it.
Yeah, can we put that in the
Can we-
motion?
I was gonna
We
say, I
can
can
add that to the
Yeah,
motion too.
extend it.
Can I be for that?
I think it says in there, yeah, extend provisions until March 31st for those employees who have not used their allotted benefits.
Right.
So that's the first part of the three-prong.
Oh, Lord.
And extend
So,
it. We need to add that we will revisit it in March.
To be revisited in
yeah,
March.
okay, so add that, that it
Add
will
that
be
part of
revisited.
it.
Okay, that's good. So he needs a second.
I second that.
Okay,
You want to do a roll call just to?
I think it'd probably be wise.
Okay. I'll do a roll call on extending the provisions to March 31st, 2021 to be revisited at the March 2021 board meeting for the people who have not exhausted their 10 COVID days. Okay, roll call. Mr. Randy Rance,
Yes.
Ms. Judith Amity,
Yes.
Ms. Melinda Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Barron Glass is zoomed, Ms. Maria Bass,
Yes.
Mr. Gary Castles,
Yes.
Mr. James King.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
next part. This is the hard part.
Yeah.
Okay, so on page 2, it's got the pros and cons. And so, this is, if we decide we want to make conditions on them being able to use the COVID days. And so, some school districts are saying that we only allow you to use the COVID days if we send you home because you contracted or were a close contact at school or at a school-related activity, versus if you got it outside of school, like at a family gathering or a party or church or whatnot.
It wouldn't have to always be that, but they could be going to see their mother like
You know,
Portia did.
and that's one of the cons that you'll see here. And so one of the pros is that it would mean that we're only responsible for the COVID days that we caused and that we're not responsible for outside of. Now the cons are that, and this was a big one, is if we say you only get to use your COVID days if you're exposed at school, are employees going to be honest with us?
Right.
Or are they going to not want to be docked or not have to use their days and deny that they were, and then come to school and spread it?
Right.
So we
But
don't.
have they been honest thus far?
We don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's, yeah,
Which
yeah.
is not, yeah, that's the reason why I asked that.
Yeah, and so that's the hard thing, but if we take away, if we start making them lose days, I think we think it might it might make them be a little less honest because they don't want to get docked their days.
Irregardless of all that, I think it's almost impossible
Yes.
for us to go say, you didn't get that at school.
Right.
Right.
You got that when you
You
went
can't put
to
provision.
so-and-so's Christmas
I went to the
party.
doctor's office,
So,
and
you know,
I'm sure I got
you
it.
can't make that
Yeah.
judgment.
And that's the second con, is it's hard to track those non-school related exposures. And now what I will say too is that we are seeing, and this is not a lot, but we do have some cases where it's questionable whether you were actually a close contact, and so some districts are requiring them to provide proof to the business department that they were indeed a close contact. So, I mean, that's why I said this is part of the hard part is how do we move forward?
In other words, they want to take COVID days when they don't need COVID days. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So, I mean, I could come in and say, oh, well, I was at a party with my brother and his girlfriend's sister, and how do you track that, you know? And so you're really just having to, you know,
At some point, you gotta just trust your feet.
I know. And that's what we've been doing.
And those should be
Good luck, man.
told anyway, if they don't have the virus.
Possibly. That's part 3. Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah. So the second part of this is, do you want to say you can only use your COVID days if it's school related, or do you want to just say continue like we did in the fall, where if you, as long as it goes to the school nurse and the nurse, you know, even because she's tracking outside. I mean, she's tracking bonfires and family gatherings.
It's gonna really open a can of worms if you try to figure out where they got it.
I agree.
But it's been working.
So Nikki, what happens if,
Believe the way it is.
you go to a party, you get COVID, you have to, I guess, quarantine. You come back 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever, then you come back with the same excuse. I mean, how does that work?
And Baron, I'm so glad you said that, because that is a very frustrating part of this puzzle for us at the school level, or,
Which is why those
district.
COVID days need to be used
Right.
when they opt.
Because we have
COVID-related
people,
incidents.
yes, we have people now who are on their third and fourth quarantines. And so it's like, you went and you put yourself in this situation where you were gonna be a close contact, don't do that, but our hands have been tied. And so you have people who are now, they've now missed 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, and so you're covering their classes, their kids are not getting their teacher, the virtual teaching's the next set of, discussions, but that's what even brought this up, is it is super frustrating. Rebecca, you want to say something?
Well, I was telling you to say it, but the flip side, and we're muddying the waters for y'all as much as possible. I'm sorry about that. Is we also have, when you think about what SPED personnel do, there's no way for them to socially distance a lot of times from kids. So we also have somebody that works in my department that is on their fourth quarantine that's work related. We have sent this person home 4 times because it's the nature of the job that we're asking them to do.
But at some point, their pay starts getting blocked. right?
Yes. And so that brings up a whole
And
other
that's through no
problem.
fault of their own.
And it's through no fault of their own, and so I would like to also request that for situations like that, it could be brought to me on a case-by-case basis that we extend those days, because like she said, this is a paraprofessional, so she's what their salaries are, who has been sent home for a 4th time. And she's exhausted all of her days, plus all of her sick days, and now is to the point where, and it's only because we're asking her to work very closely with kids that, she's providing not only academic services, she's providing, what's the correct word?
I guess just basic medical type, There are just some jobs that we have people do in the school system where they cannot socially distance. And so, we have two different sets of people who have been quarantined 4 times. We have some that happen to have been in the wrong place in the wrong time 4 times, and then we have some that 4 times we have said you can't come to work tomorrow because this happened at your place of employment.
So when you said it case by case, what would you do for that person? You said extended.
If it's something that we caused and we said, I would like to be able to say, okay, we could extend that COVID days and not dock her because we're sending them home.
Well, Nikki, when you say extended COVID days, what do you specifically mean? I'm
What
lost.
did we do this fall with this
Are we,
employee?
we're not giving them more days.
We never got to the point where we had to. I think we were just having that conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Really, I think we just be documenting something in the personnel file that we recognize why that person is out. It's not caused by that person, it's something that is unique, and it's not gonna be to it's gonna be a very limited group. It'll probably just be special ed people, and I'm guessing.
well,
Or
and
maybe
because
Kelly,
Head Start teachers.
because they can't,
Because the kids aren't masked.
They're not masked, yeah.
Well, that's gonna be from 3-year-olds through 2nd grade.
Yes. Yes. It's just.
But when that happens to them, the whole class goes home. If there's the whole class goes home, including the teacher and parents.
Oh, Lord. That is so bad.
They really put us in a bind here. And I said just COVID. Yeah.
They just come in one day and everybody goes home.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's true.
But then there are situations where, on the flip side that I was saying before, where you've got the same person over and over again, and you're like, really, you've been exposed again? At what point do you stop putting yourself in a situation where,
If you,
Well, if they're quarantining, they're supposed to either be going to the pharmacy, to the drugstore, just the mandatory trips that you have to take when you get back home.
they don't necessarily overlap. It may be that this quarantine took
Right.
place, I came back to work for 1 or 2 weeks, and then I'm quarantined again. and then I'm quarantined again, you know, and so, I mean, it's the nature of the beast. It's very frustrating for us though.
But Nika, what are you proposing?
I don't know. I think.
Well, and I ask that because you deal with it on a day-to-day basis, and I'm on the outside.
I think that I could live with anything. Okay, but I think my team, because we're all on the fence about the third scenario. Okay, that's where we really have the biggest debate, is in the third scenario. But I think based on your decision in the third scenario, I would be fine with saying COVID regardless of exposure in the second scenario, and not try to track where you got it from and all of those things. The biggest problem falls in the continuation of virtual teleworking. So, I mean, can we skip the decision of the second one and move to the third?
We don't have anything.
We don't have anything in.
Well, do you think it's gonna reflect on the third one?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, so, yeah, okay, so moving on to the third part is whether or not we want to continue to allow our teachers to virtual or telework. And so this only applies to people that can work from home. And so that would be your teachers who are teaching a class. It would be everybody in my office who, you know, I mean, if I had to go home, I can promise you, whether you dock my days or not, I have to keep working. I can't just take all this time off. So it doesn't apply to bus drivers, because you can't telework and bus drive. You can't work in the cafeteria and telework, and you could be a custodian. Paras cannot work from home.
Secretary.
Yeah. Secretaries. Yeah.
So if they get the serious symptoms, how would that work if they're at home?
If
a teacher get it and they get the serious, the most complicated, form.
So what we have allowed teachers and employees who can telework to do, because it made perfect sense in the beginning, and it does in some scenarios here, is that if teachers are going home and they're not sick, then their kids are missing instruction for, up to 8 days, basically, because it's 8 school days. They're missing their teacher, and so why would we send a teacher home who's not sick and not allow them to continue teaching their class? And so that's why we started this. But the problem is it started strong, and we've got some teachers who are really doing a good job with it. They're working hard, and then we have some teachers who are not. And they're going home and they're not taking any days, and they're just plugging in assignments, and they're not logging in and teaching, and they're not following through with their end of the deal. So we have two very different ends of the spectrum. And
so would that fall under willful neglect to do it?
Well, no, I don't. Someone would have to monitor it, and that's the piece too, is that who has time to monitor to make sure every teacher is logging in every hour to teach their lesson the right way, So that is, and part of what we have found is that for people who have quarantined multiple times, is there's never been any use of COVID days. There's never been any use of sick days. So I've been basically teaching from home all this time, and I've never had any kind of penalty. And I haven't used a single day. And so
that's being the system.
And that's where we are right now, is that there are some people who are just milking the system, and I'm staying at home and I'm working, and I'm not being docked any days. So that's where we thought, okay, if we allow them to continue teaching virtually, if they want to, because those who want to are still going to do it, but you start taking those COVID days, then at some point, I'm going to be a little more careful when I go out in public, and I'm not going to be a close contact again. So.
Well, Nick, I think, not putting it off on you, but I think that's an administrative decision that, you may want to, kind of, see how you want to deal with it. Because, I mean, that's something that, we would expect you to, put down.
I have to have a policy. I have to have a policy, and to enforce. Right. And that's where it's y'all have to make the policy, and that's why I'm presenting all this. Is I wanted you to see all the different ins and outs, because we've been debating this before we got out, as to what we were going to do and try. Because I'm on the fence. I'm back and forth, because I don't want kids to be without their teacher for that period of time, but at the same time, I've got to be fiscally responsible, and business is business. So I wanted to present all those scenarios to y'all, and whatever decision you make, I'll enforce. I just wanted you to have all the information so that you know what you're enforcing.
Well, I think well, it's kind of hard, because if we'd have done this from the policy standpoint and then presented to the board, because right now it's kind of confusing to me.
That's why I sent it to y'all early, because I knew it would be. I knew it would be. But I mean, we have people already who have been quarantined that we've just communicated to them. Right now, we don't know, but whatever happens with the board, we can make retroactive from the time that we came back.
So Nikki, the issues, the days that's being taken, there's no days being, there's no time allotted for the sick days, or, so you're paying two people to do one job.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, and which the teacher that's off should be taking something, whether it's sick leave, whether it's personal days, or whether it's COVID days, right?
That's the decision y'all have to make, and they're.
Well, for me, if it's COVID related, they need to take those COVID days. Otherwise, you're paying two people to wash your car the same amount of money. And I think that would be fiscal, irresponsible.
Well, and the conversation came up, and one of you directors may want to jump in, and if I don't communicate this right, but take away COVID, okay, take away this. When a teacher's going to be absent, they're already putting in their lessons, and they're leaving, instructions for the substitute. The substitute's running the class for the teacher. They're still grading the work and doing. The only reason we ever allowed this to happen is because of COVID, and it was the expectation that you would be teaching and teaching and teaching as if, and we know kids have got to be supervised. We're having to pay a sub to come in and supervise them, but at least they're not missing out on that instruction. It's just that you have so many different levels of what's happened, and what has happened is because we've allowed them to do it over and over again, we're taking advantage of it.
Some people
Gotta stop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna stop. Just tell us what to do.
I will tell, if you go back to that front page, most of the Northeast districts are not allowing their teachers, or not requiring their teachers to virtually teach. They're just using the COVID days and moving forward. They're not, necessarily telling you can't do it. Some teachers are going to do it even if they're getting docked. I'm going to work at home even if you're docking me my days, because I have to do the work. But we can't require teachers to teach virtually if we're taking their sick days, And then those who are, to get back to Baron's question there, those who are sick, we're not expecting them to teach if you are sick.
Right. Right.
So if you're not well, they've been just taking their days if you can't work from home. And some don't. Some just are like, no, I can't do it. And so we just, they're absent.
You talking about the teachers just one day?
Some do, because there have been some, they don't have the internet capability.
Yeah, a lot of them happen because
Well, that's
they don't
another
have the
question,
internet.
Yeah, or they're not comfortable, in doing it, or they're,
They don't have internet.
yeah, that's basically.
There ought to be some way to monitor the ones that are teaching, shouldn't be getting taught.
Yeah.
Well-
And that's, yeah.
Well, if I could speak to that, it would be great if we could log in, but that would require the principal or the instructional coach or the assistant principal or one of us logging into every virtual teaching classroom all day long to monitor to see if that's happened, while we're already doing in-person walkthroughs and observations and formal observations on top of that. There's not enough hours in the day for somebody to sit there and watch a screen to make sure that the teacher is doing what they're supposed to do. It's gonna tie up your principals to not be inside the classroom for the teachers that are there and for the kids that are there.
On average, how many virtual teachers do we have?
It changes all the time.
Yeah, it
Just depends on how many,
But how many?
Well, just give us a number so we can tell.
Well, at one point, the high school had 22 out.
22 virtual
Yes.
teachers.
well, we had 22 teachers
22
out.
teachers out. Because of the
Quarantine
football team.
and
Yeah.
We had that many teachers.
Yeah.
22 out of,
Average,
what,
so
about
that would
40
be
something?
sometime, right?
How many teachers are at the high school?
36.
22 out of 36.
That's a lot.
But they weren't all teaching from virtual. They were just, some of them just out.
Some were, some weren't.
Some were, some weren't. It
just
changes
depends on who
literally
gets
every day.
Yeah,
It
and that was all
changes
done
every
on the
day.
policy, way the policy was before, that
Yes.
they were
Correct.
using cookies.
Yeah,
And that
Yeah.
basically is the policy in option 2, where the teacher staff were able to teach virtually as well, but they still can if they want to, but they still have to take COVID.
right,
But
right.
one quarantine's gonna use up all 10 days. They get
Yeah.
quarantined one time, they gone.
Well,
Well,
now with the
depends on when it
CDC, if
is.
they let you test back in at 7 days, it could be less. I mean, that did help. That
Yeah.
rule did help. Yeah.
It's not 10 days even, it's 14 you told me.
It's very confusing. If you test positive, it's 10. If you are quarantined, it's 14. But if you show no symptoms, you can test on day 7, and if you're negative, you can come back to work. So it could be 7. But if you don't choose to go test, or you do have, then you have to do the full 14. The other thing is Head Start to 2nd grade, because there's no masks in those, they don't have the option to do 7 days. They have to stay out the full 14, am I right? Okay. And athletes don't have the option. They have to refrain from athletics for the full 14. I don't like it one
Just
bit.
athletics or from school?
Just athletics. Just
And then
athletics.
if you're a caregiver, if
So
you're a
if you're playing sports,
caregiver,
it's penalized, but basically.
Oh, I know. I
That's a bunch of
was
crap.
so mad, so mad. And yeah, and this same benefit applies to caregivers. So y'all, we have had situations where, help me with this.
well, like if, say my husband tested positive and I had to stay home and take care of him, then I would have to be quarantined until he was negative and symptom free. So my quarantine would start when he's negative.
So we have some
So it
who
could be
didn't
24
start their,
days.
yeah, so you're talking 24 days. I had to do the 10 for my child plus the 14 afterwards. I'm telling you, it has been the biggest mess. And we've had that happen probably a handful of times.
And Nick, that handful of time, what's the price tag on that?
Well, I mean, it's,
Just rough.
okay, so 10 plus 14 is 24 days on a 4-day week. So, I mean, you're looking at probably somebody who does math.
That's what, 6 weeks?
16 days.
16
6
school
weeks?
days. 16 school
Yeah.
days. So 4 weeks.
And that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. But again, it's a lot of time for the teacher to not be in the classroom with their,
Right, and the student ultimately loses out.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, they losing out big time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is going.
Which is why the policy needs to be consistent.
Mhm.
And, regardless as to what policy we come up with, Nick, it's gonna affect somebody.
It
But
is.
I'm not concerned about that. As long as it's right and it's fair, and, because we still have to look at the ultimate goal, which is making sure the school is ran the way that it should be, fiscally responsible and all that other stuff. So, somebody's gonna be mad or whatever, but to prevent as much abuse as possible is where I would like to look at it. Because I mean, if somebody can say, well, I got it for my daughter, and then I got it for my son, and then I got it for my mother, I mean, in never used days, hell, I would do it for the rest of the year.
Some people
that's
have
not- that
caught on
wouldn't
to that.
Most people
Well,
wouldn't do that.
and that's why it needs to stop.
That's the way I see it. Most people wouldn't do that. Most people's not gonna take
Right.
advantage of it.
Right.
So Randy, what do we need to do?
Well, one thing, like you said, we need to set policy. It's up to us to set some kind of policy in this situation.
Nick, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at nothing, because I didn't print, so I could be better help, but I'm not looking at anything, so I'm gonna trust, what I hear to make a decision. Yeah.
Okay.
We mentioned earlier, talking about when we were under the conditions part, a case-by-case scenario.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, that's
that
not
puts
good.
you in a situation where,
Well, she let
you got
you
this, but I
know.
didn't. My God, blah, 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 and that starts that opens up a whole nother can of worms.
It needs to
I
be
wouldn't want to be in that
consistent.
situation.
Well, I would only want the ability to do a case by case if we are sending you home because of your job responsibility. That's the only time I would even want.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
For the, like what Rebecca was saying, that scenario where it's not her fault, she's just doing her job, and her job means that she has to hands-on take care of kids in there, and we're sending you home again. That's the only time I would like to be able to do that.
And we can determine that?
Well, I mean, yeah, because we've had, like, there were kids in that classroom who tested positive, and so she was a close contact because she was actually physically doing something with that child.
This person did never test positive. It
Yeah.
was somebody in the classroom got it and Deborah said you have to go home. Or Mary said you have to go home, and the school nurse.
And you don't get the option to tell them no.
Yeah,
Right.
You just do it.
They're the boss.
they tell you to collect your things and.
So that's the only reason I would like the ability to handle those school-related exposures on a case-by-case basis.
They could use up their 10 days, and then they could use up their sick days.
Yeah, this particular employee has used all of her COVID days and all of her sick days.
That's terrible. And we can find him.
But they using their all the COVID days on one quarantine. I mean, it's gone.
Nick, I think if you do it case by case, I think just looking down, you may set yourself up for, you know, I think when you're dealing with a policy over the years, if you just make it consistent and then you enforce it, you know, I think that'll be a better whole, but like I said, I'm not looking at anything.
And
Do you have
I'm
any,
fine with that. That's exactly what I did.
Nick, do you have any comfort zone as to, because again, I'm not there, you are. What is it that you would like to see, you know, relative to something that you can enforce and be fair, you know, and equitable across the board that would be legitimate enough for the school to function, save money, and prevent some of the abuse that exists?
Well,
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I think it's okay. I think that for me, the best case scenario would be you continue it. Y'all have already voted on that part. You don't track where it came from. It's COVID. It's COVID. But
Right.
we do not require the virtual teaching anymore, because then it would. If you wanted virtual teach from home, you can, but we're not requiring it because you're using your COVID days. I think that it would help our people be a little more careful in their exposure. And I say this, I mean, I am not going home for anybody who doesn't sleep in my house, because I do what I can to stay away from people, but I don't work in a job where I'm hands-on like others. I think I could go with does that make sense? I mean, I could go with you, whatever it is, you get the days, but we're no longer going to require you to teach virtually.
So if they don't teach virtual, they use either.
They would start
COVID
out with their
days.
COVID days and then move into their sick days.
Okay, and then a sub would replace the teacher, right? Okay, so that's where you're comfortable at.
That's where the majority of my leaders are comfortable. That's not where I was Tuesday. They can tell you, I was on the other side Tuesday.
What were you at Tuesday?
Tuesday, I was on, I don't want kids to miss their lessons, and so I didn't want to take away virtual teaching from the kids. But
So which one is better for you now? Because again, the kid is what we're looking at.
Yeah, which one's better for the kids?
I know,
Virtual teaching or
that's
sub
why
teaching?
I'm telling y'all, this is a tough decision.
I think the virtual teaching is better, but if that's causing more problems.
They could.
That's what they're saying
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
If the teacher's not teaching virtually, is what they're saying.
Right, but some of them maybe not. Most of them
And that's
are.
exactly right, and we do have that going on,
She
that
said
they're
that.
not
Yeah.
doing it, and they're still
So-
getting.
So Nick, is it a way that we can enforce that? I mean, is it somebody else that we can
We just
add
talked about
to enforce it? Or, I mean, it's just a
And
no-no.
that's what Kim just explained. I mean, we don't have the manpower to log into every single teacher who's quarantined to their lessons all day long.
And then you would
But
need,
see, we expect kids to do what they're supposed to do, but we can't get teachers to do what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's.
Not all of them, not all of them.
Yeah, I mean, just a few that's not.
There are,
Yeah.
and that causes a problem for all of us, because it's just not fair.
well, then we would almost have to adopt another rubric for virtual instruction to observe them on, because you have different quality of virtual instruction. Just like you have different quality of instruction in the classroom, that we have a rubric that we go by to grade or evaluate them. You would have to have a virtual rubric which has not been, then you would have to educate the teacher on the rubric, and you would have to, I mean, that's a whole process. So, you know,
Well, Nick,
Yeah.
if virtual and there's a policy that when a teacher is out, that they must teach, and they don't, then at that point, that's a willful neglect to do it because that's policy. I don't know if we want to be that stern, but I'm just trying to.
Well, I'm not looking to get rid of anybody.
Yeah, I'm like Gary. I mean, the student gets the most when the teacher's there. And if the teacher can do it virtual, then I think that's an advantage. But if the teacher is refusing to do it, or not doing it, even if it's one, I just think those kids in that classroom, they lose out when the teacher should be there to be putting in, or giving it.
And it's not necessarily a refusal.
Yeah, it was never a you have to teach virtual. It was if you teach virtual, the day doesn't count.
Right.
Just
Let me-
one
let me
more
throw
piece of
something
the
out there.
puzzle.
Yes,
Well, I just wanna, while we're talking about, and I'll go ahead and shout out to a couple of teachers. At one point at Columbia, we had a lot of teachers that were sent home. And just to name some names that I saw, not that this is all of them, but these are just 3 that I saw. Hannah Springer, Lacey Boyd, Kim Fisher. They were teaching virtually in a way that some people can't do in a regular classroom when they're there. It was amazing. But Ms. Whitten
You
was
may not should have mentioned those names since they're not present.
but
It's a shout out, it's a good thing.
yeah. But
Okay.
but Ms. Whitten was having to still pull other personnel from her building to watch the class because no matter how great of a job the teacher's doing, they can't be in there by themselves.
Yeah.
So other things in the building were not taking place. Other people were not getting support services or sub costs are still there because no matter how great a teacher can be virtually, you still have to have a human body there to work with them. So.
Well, let me ask one thing. And see how, let me just throw this out here and see what y'all think. Including everybody, the administrators, everybody. All right, suppose we had on 2, the virtual telework. Suppose we did this, the teacher staff, and I'm not gonna read this, y'all got it in front of you, well, I'll read it. Teacher staff who are able to teach virtually from home or telework may continue to do so, but must take COVID days or personal sick days if COVID days have been exhausted. Suppose we did this. Let the teachers, have the teachers that say that, go by this policy right here. But add that after your COVID days have been used, that upon written request by that particular teacher, that they can teach virtual from home or wherever they're at. They can teach virtual without being docked sick days. That they have to have a written request of that, and that would be reviewed by a committee, consisting of the superintendent, the high school administrator, the elementary administrator, and the principal of that school.
And
And then that committee will determine whether that particular teacher would not be docked sick days or would be docked sick days at that point.
you'd really have to base it on the quality of their virtual instruction.
Right.
So I mean, we could.
They're gonna use their 10 sick days, but there's 10 COVID days. So you ought to get some idea how they're doing it at that point. And then.
Well, and I got a random text here too that says, can it be just random checks? And so if we communicate to teachers that if you're gonna teach from home, know that there will be random checks to make sure that you are doing. And that's just a text that I got to say,
If you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
That the teacher have a written request to be allowed to
They have to
not be
invite
allowed for
us.
sick days.
Every teacher in the district's gonna have to invite us to their classroom to be able to see. And, if they're doing a Google Meet and they're teaching instruction, then you're gonna have to say, I have 6 math teachers that are teaching, all your elementary, K through 2, teaches math at 8 o'clock. So I'm gonna have all those, this is just the scenario of what's gonna happen just for K through 2. I'm going to get Google Meet invites for all 6 of those, or 7. And then I randomly do, and then at 9 o'clock, I'm gonna be or 10 o'clock, I'm gonna be randomly looking at ELA because they all teach ELA at 10 o'clock. But then I also have Google Meet instruction going on 3rd, 4th, and 5th that are all teaching math, science, social studies at all different hours. And then at the junior high and high school, it's by period. And so you're going to be constantly on the computer looking in a classroom, even if it's random. Because our walkthroughs are scheduled. And even those are difficult sometimes with quarantines and all of that. And we're in and out of the schools on top of meetings and IEP meetings and conferences and things like that. It's going to be very difficult to do. I'm not saying I'm not willing to do it. I'm just saying it
That's
may
the
or may not.
reality.
Yeah, that's the
Hey,
reality.
Nick,
Yeah.
is there any, is there a principal that's there? That
James
okay.
James is in the office. Call James in here.
Yeah, well, I would just want to see if they had something that they felt, because I think when you're complicated by ad, I just think there needs to be a policy and you know, and you stick to it. I like what Randall was saying. I don't know if that, you know, helps or make it, but I like what it's, because you gotta be able to do something. I just feel like we require kids to do stuff. We mandate them to do it. If we get these teachers, I mean, because they gotta teach. I mean, if you're not sick and you're at home, it's not a vacation day. You know, you're supposed to be teaching.
So we would have to adopt
You know, and
that
those,
to do that.
Say that one more
We
time.
would have to adopt a virtual rubric, because the rubric that we have, the TAP rubric, is not the virtual rubric. It's a whole separate rubric that your teachers have not been educated on. So that wouldn't be fair for the teacher.
To do what?
For them to be evaluated on a rubric they don't know about. And they've
And
never
why are you
seen that
evaluating them?
for virtual instruction.
Just to see that the virtual instruction.
Yeah, if you're evaluating virtual instruction, that looks different than in-person instruction.
You could do it as an informal.
You can do it as an informal, yes,
You
but
just don't have a
it's the
tool.
same
Yeah.
tool.
Yes.
You have to have a different tool. Come on in, James.
You're in trouble.
No, walk in.
All right, there's James Barron.
yeah, James, relative to you having the police, the teachers on virtual, whatever, do you have any, I guess, insight, input, or something that you would like to offer that might make it better for, I guess, you and all of the principals? I'm not saying that you're speaking for all those principals, I just would like to kind of see what somebody, you know, would like to say, because I'm trying to make it easier for Nikki, something that, you know, she can enforce, you know, that's across the board, because when you go through this case-by-case basis, I mean, somebody's gonna create an issue that she shouldn't have to deal with in the superintendent. So you got anything you'd like to add?
Randy.
It's been tough on all of us. I think y'all.
Well, I mean, it's tough on us too.
And I think y'all know that. I'm kind of on both sides of this, but I think as an administrator at the high school level or any principal, we need a specific guideline to go by.
Right.
And I'm in agreement. Unfortunately, if you were tested positive or you were a close contact and you have used your COVID days, then I'm sorry, you're out. You got to start using your sick days.
Right.
And then if you haven't used those need to be granted over. I mean, I haven't been quarantined, so it would be a punishment for me if I all of a sudden was a close contact. But on the other hand, I can't do my job from home. I have to be at the school, so there's no way for me to do that. But I agree with, I think, everybody in here that it has been abused, where I do have teachers that aren't doing their job at home, and we're not, I hate to say it, we're not penalizing them some way, shape, or form. And I think y'all need to set a penalty up for that, and then hopefully we might see a little bit of a change. Now, I've got some teachers out already for close contact. Again, coming back out of a new year. Now, one of them is school related. The other one, close contact outside. So, if we've got a policy that y'all are in agreement on, I think it's going to be make it a lot better on us at the building level to be able to handle.
See, Nick, I got some, but I'm just afraid that it's a little too stern. Again, I like what Randy said.
Hey. Listen, Katie just texted, and she's on here too, so that's another principal if you want to get another perspective.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, any of them. I see the red. I guess that's mute. Yeah, Katie.
Can you unmute her?
Rhonda was on there too.
Okay.
I saw her name.
Michael's
She can unmute herself.
Okay, Katie, you're unmuted.
There she goes.
Hello?
Hey, girl.
Hello, hello?
Katie,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
answer.
Katie?
Turn your volume up.
Yeah, I see she's unmuted. I
Yeah.
see Maria, what was it, Elena and Rhonda. But they all muted.
They have to unmute themselves.
They have to
Yeah,
read themselves.
And she said it won't let her talk. Okay,
Hey,
try unmuting yourself.
Yeah, click at the top of your board. Nick, she's unmuted now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like, but she can't get it to talk.
Can she chat?
I see
Hey,
Rhonda.
can you chat?
Nick,
Okay, switch over. Let's see, Rhonda or Maria, Alana.
Elena, yeah, but they all muted.
Yeah, can you unmute them all?
They have to unmute themselves.
Okay, unmute yourselves, ladies, if you want to speak. We want to hear from principals. Here, Katie.
Somebody,
Okay,
Can you hear me?
Katie said, hey,
There's
Yes.
Elena. There's Elena.
he chatted, Nick.
Okay, I see that. All right,
Yeah.
tell us your thoughts on the virtual teaching, Ms. Garcia.
Well, I have some teachers that do a fabulous job at virtual teaching. So, I'm torn because most of my teachers that have done virtual have stayed logged in for most of the day. Like I had a second grade teacher and she logged in at 7:45 and she stayed logged on the entire day, walked the substitute through everything. And it was wonderful because the kids didn't really miss anything. So, I hate to take that away from them when they're doing a job like that.
Right.
I know there are some that are just posting in Google Classroom and saying good luck to you. So, but most of my teachers know that the kids are going to be behind, so they do what they go over and beyond to try to get them so they don't get left behind. My fear with not allowing them to virtual teach is that if you take their sick days, a lot of them aren't going to because they say, well, this teacher's sitting at home and they're getting their free days and they're not doing anything and they're losing their days and I'm busting my hump and I'm still losing my days.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my teachers would still log in because they know that the kids need them to, but it's a hard call because like we talked, all the administrators talked the other day, we're all just kind of torn between the two. But I know probably in the upper grades, it's easier for the kids to do their assignments kind of, I guess, quote, by themselves. But in the lower, the elementary, they really need their teachers to help them go through all those lessons. So the high school and junior high are a little bit different because the kids can log on and do things by themselves, whereas our lower ed cannot. Our K through 5, at least K through 3, it's harder for them.
Rhonda's trying.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Alana.
Thank you.
It seems to me by listening to principals that they have some idea, they're not gonna call them by name, I know, but they have some idea. What teachers aren't doing this.
Right.
So if we did do it, they had to have a written request to this committee and let them know that it's not guaranteed that it's gonna happen. It's gonna be reviewed, and upon review, they will grant this if we feel that it's been.
Once your 10 COVID days are exhausted.
Once your 10 COVID days are exhausted, and we can have once your 10 COVID days are, once your 10 COVID days are exhausted, for sure that. And you might even add some sick days in there, half of your sick days. But the thing about it is, there's so many things as far as, because I know those sick days are important to teachers.
Yes.
Not only for days off, but for not using them and carrying them on through.
Right.
So,
which is, kind of a conversation David and I had is that, we're not seeing that on, you want to say that? Say what you said to me the other day?
We're not having a financial impact directly. I mean, the loss is obviously the services being provided. Is that where you're going?
Well, but then when they get ready to retire.
No, whenever they get ready to retire, they can cash in their sick leave for 30 days, I believe.
So just till they give all the COVID days, and then have them have a written request to this committee.
To be allowed to teach virtually.
And not use their sick days.
And still get paid, basically.
Right.
That sounds good.
See, my viewpoint is this, Either you gonna have to do it one way or the other. You know what I mean? Hey, I mean, because you like this individual, we're not talking about that, right? We're talking about a policy.
We don't know who it is.
I don't need to know who it is. The supervisor knows who it is. I know who it is, right? Hey,
They hire them, they fire them.
hey, you can't.
There she is, Rhonda's on.
Oh, hey, Rhonda. Okay, talk to us, Rhonda.
I was sitting here trying to get my ideas together. I feel fairly confident with all of my teachers' virtual teaching. I had talked to Miss Adams and I had a couple, one or two that I had a few concerns on. I have seen improvement, but neither of those teachers have even been in the mix at all. I have one teacher who is taking sick leave today and tomorrow and is teaching virtual from home, full blast the whole day, because she has a sick child. It's not COVID related in any way, but I mean, I've seen a ton of growth since August on this virtual teaching.
Yes.
I even have seen a K-2 class, you know, in the lower end, where it's been very successful. It's so much more successful than anything we would get with a sub.
Yes.
The kids have the stability, and it does allow the principals to put a para in there, you know, because the para can keep the order in the class. But I mean, I have one teacher, I've talked to you about her before, she did discipline, she did everything from Monroe. She answered the intercom with all of her class.
I already said her name.
Yeah.
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 And to me, catching on bits and pieces, that's what should happen.
Yeah.
I mean, there can come a time that I can't stroke on Randy and he not do his job.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, we have had a couple of instances in the elementary where virtual teaching was happened and the principals came to me and said, this is not going well, this is, you know, a mess, you know, and so we talked to that teacher and it didn't improve, and then we told her, I'm sorry, you know, this isn't working. We're putting somebody else in there, you're now taking your days because it's just not working. It's a mess and we're getting parent complaints, it's a mess in here.
That's what I was gonna ask. How did you know that it was not, and it was because parents were complaining?
Mostly, it was parents that were like, all we're getting is Google Classroom assignments, and the teacher, where is the record, where is this, where is that? And then the principal checked up on it, and I checked up on it, and the instructional coach checked up, and we're like, no, it is not good. And so then we made a change. But that's happened 2 times on my watch.
So, okay, so thinking about what we've just heard from principals, because it sounds to me like we're on the fence. We knew we were on the fence anyway. We've got some teachers and principals who really don't want this to end, and then some that we're like, okay, we're not sure. Oh, I just got feedback.
We've got 3 or 4 people unmuted as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what if we did allow them to teach virtually, but start taking the COVID days? Because the COVID days are not costing them anything, they're not losing, but it would start diminishing that 10 number.
They should be doing that anyway.
We're learning. We didn't, you know.
Yeah, and that's fine,
We
yeah.
have a response from Maria.
Okay, Maria did say something.
She said she couldn't, she's on her phone and it wouldn't let her unmute. She said that her.
She's got to unmute herself.
Kim's gonna translate for
I'm gonna
her.
translate. She sent me a text. She said, my thing is, when we pick and choose, it may cause problems. There has to be criteria for that teacher, just like we were discussing.
Well, we can't send this, my teacher for the elementary, a principal down.
So we're not,
So maybe if we allow them to teach virtually until their COVID days are exhausted, and then and we can come up with criteria about your written request to continue teaching virtually, if COVID related, you know, that I'm on quarantine, not because I'm sick or something different, but that I'm able to do this, but here are the expectations. I'm going to log in and I'm going to do this and I'm going to teach this, and I'm, you know, if we kind of set some criteria, and then if you're not, then it would be willful neglect of duty.
Yeah, because at
And then-
this point, you have a policy.
Yeah, and we have the policy that says this is what you have to do, and so if you're not, then you just have that conversation and say you're no longer allowed to teach from virtual, you're taking your days while you're out. Would that
sounds fair.
I understand.
okay? So how do we word it?
Hey, Nikki, so would that go to the committee that Randy, suggested, or you still including that, right?
I think that it definitely needs to at least go to the appropriate, the principal
Right.
and the director at that level.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
to make that.
And if it need to go to the next level, the third level, which would be you,
Right.
then that should be a part of it. And at that point, if two of the three, if y'all concur on that, then I think that should be the policy. And that teacher needs to be aware of that. I mean, I understand that it's hard for everybody, but because it's hard for them, and it's, I think everybody should be able to work together. The ultimate goal is to make sure that kid is educated, the best way that we can give it to them. And if there's some other issues, I think you should be able to iron it out. So I'm okay with what we've said.
Okay, so what if we word it like this? Teachers and staff who are able to teach virtually from home or telework may continue to do so, but must take COVID days.
Shall take
COVID days. Once those days are exhausted, a written request can be made to the principal and director with expectations lined out for continued virtual teaching.
Yeah, Nick, put a written request. A written request shall be.
Is that what you said?
I'd like a paper. I'd like the formality of a paper. It's more binding, I feel like.
Well, with their leave form that they have to fill out, it could just be an attachment to that.
How much notice do they have to give between COVID day number 10 and sick leave day number 1 that they may not be taken?
That's why you're in here, to make us think about those things.
Don't you pretty well know by day 7 if you're running a fever or anything?
They could be exhausted their sick leave or their COVID days and then teach 3 more weeks and be quarantined again.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, they're gonna send them home, and then they're gonna have to have a written request at that time period and have a meeting before they go back to teaching, is what y'all saying.
In that case, in that scenario, they'll not use any sick leave.
So they may be missing a whole day or more before that gets done.
Well, you can make it, it doesn't have to be retro, you can make it retroactive for when they left.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And if they're out 2 or 3 different times, is it one letter that's approved, or is it 3 letters every time?
Yeah, you have
It's
to
a
get
letter
it approved
each
every
time.
time?
Yeah, a letter each time. And this, and something we've got to be very specific about is this is only COVID related.
That's right.
This is not anything else. This is not maternity or, normal, it's, those lines are getting blurred. We've got to be very, very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Particular.
Very particular, and we've got to communicate that this is only for COVID quarantines or isolations.
Somebody gonna make a
Yes.
motion, we got this figured out?
So you're gonna make sure it's not just for sick days?
Right, it's
I
not.
can't take my sick days and teach from home, or?
Now, if you're taking your sick days and you want to teach from home, I have no problem with you doing that.
That's fine.
You're taking your sick days.
You're taking your sick days.
Yeah,
They're
you're
not gonna
taking your
not
sick days.
count.
And we have an already existing policy that says that 6 days, you have to have a doctor's excuse. So you can't just go home and teach
Right.
virtually forever.
Why would they want to take the sick days and they got COVID days?
Well, once your COVID days.
But once your
are
COVID
out.
days are gone.
Once you cover that.
Yeah, oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And did y'all say?
But I'm thinking the issue is to get them to take them, so Nikki, you feel,
What'd you say?
I feel good. I feel like you came up with a pretty good plan. Yeah.
Where it came from.
No.
So, is
No.
it not tracking the corona?
No, not that.
So we don't even have to do anything with that conditions part.
Number
It's
2.
just- Yeah, it's just that we are gonna extend the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act until, March 31st for those employees who have not used their allotted benefits. The existing provision had no conditions, so we just continue with no conditions. So this part just says we would need to, I'm trying to write this out, so let's make a motion.
to the principal.
Do y'all feel good about that way that's worded? I mean, y'all want to see the
Yeah.
people every day. You like the people from
As long as it's the sick, like you were talking about.
It's something
Something
really
really
under.
takes
Are y'all satisfied? James Wells could over the door, so now we'll do it. Just leave it.
Keeping his 6 feet.
Uh,
I'm gonna take my COVID
does he
test.
have to take this COVID day? Well, make sure you teach it virtually.
Okay. Can you read my handwriting? So start with the box up there.
That's one.
Okay. Shall. Instead of must, yeah, Barron suggested say shall.
Hey, Nick, before you go, who will be the person responsible for communicating that tomorrow, whenever you get it ready? So we can eliminate, hopefully, this problem that you've been having.
As soon as it's typed up, I will. I mean, I don't mind, or I
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make sure they get to understand it, yeah.
Sure, yeah,
So that they have their service.
yeah.
Go ahead,
All right.
Mr. Randy, read it.
All right, in regards to virtual teleworking, I'd like to make a motion that reads as is. Teacher staff who are able to teach virtually from home or telework may continue to do so, and shall take COVID days or personal sick days if COVID days have been exhausted.
No, I scratched that part out, I'm sorry. We don't want to get into that. It should have stopped at COVID days.
Yeah, take the
COVID
sick days off.
Yes.
Not sick
Yeah, not the sick days.
Not the sick.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
And shall take COVID days. Upon written request to continue teaching virtually, a written request to continue teaching virtually may be submitted blank days prior to teaching.
I think it should be 3 days prior.
3 days prior.
Yeah, that's 72 hours. That's usually, standard.
Let's say 3 days prior to teaching to the principal and director. This is only allowed for COVID-related absences.
So that helps the girl that she has, that she's talking about,
Yes.
that's been exposed 4 times. She can say, hey, I've used my days, but I've got this situation, I've caught it at school, and you can say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and continue to pay.
It would just have to be in written request to the principal and director.
Hey, Nick, didn't they have something years ago where, a situation like that, the individual was paid, but then when they came back, a certain amount was taken out of pay period each time, and that money was reimbursed back? We did that for like janitors and, other people, and I don't know if that would be legitimate for her, but I mean, if that person is, trying to do their best, maybe that'll be something that can help them out. Because I'm assuming if they've exhausted all the days, they're not getting paid, right?
Right. Unless they apply for extended family medical leave, which it has its own
Okay.
set of rules.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
Okay, are we ready
Okay,
for a
all
second?
right.
Yeah.
Are we ready for a second?
I'm not really understanding the 3 days prior.
Okay.
How's that gonna work? When we say must be submitted 3 days prior to teaching to the principal, the written request must be submitted 3 days prior.
So when someone is quarantined, they're given a return date. They know when they can come back. And the minimum is is 7, and that would be if they test negative on day 7 and can come back. So they're gonna have time to know whether or not I'm gonna request, they're gonna know I have 10 days, or I have 5 days left, and I'm going home for this amount of days. They're gonna know how it is. We just don't want them to call the morning of and say, hey, I'm sending you a letter I wanna teach today.
Okay.
So,
That brings back the point I made a while ago. What if their COVID day's already up? And then then 3 weeks later, a month later, they quarantine again, and you gonna make them wait 3 days?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But
Before they
there-
start
Or day
teaching.
7,
But-
you have no symptoms, and on day 7, you test positive. You know the next day you're not gonna be there.
Right.
You
I'm
don't
just
have
saying
to
that
be
they're
there.
quarantined,
So,
if they're
yeah.
around somebody.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Every say 24.
How can they come in?
24 hours?
Yeah, 24 hours.
24 hours?
24 hours.
So, yeah, I mean, whatever's gonna benefit, everybody's involved.
This is
I'm
why
here
it's
just
important to
understood
make
what
these
Brenda
decisions
Do y'all not
together.
see my point?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Yeah.
So 24 hours, so to tweak it, 24 hours prior to the day that they begin teaching virtual from home, right?
Ladies, all we good with it?
I
Do
think
you
so.
understand what we're
Alright, so we
saying?
got a motion?
I think I do.
Are we, is that your motion?
That's my
I mean, is
motion.
it gonna
And I'm
have,
sticking to it.
is it gonna make sense to the people that it's gonna apply to?
Oh, we got to wait till
Yeah.
the show.
So, yeah. And
It'll be written really.
And it will be written, and I will text it to y'all to get a thumbs up before we communicate it out to be sure that it's exactly, because this is, I mean, he can't read my handwriting, and I
Are you
can't.
ready for a second?
I
Mr.
recorded
Reed?
you saying, so we can go back and listen.
All right, so we have a motion.
Second it.
Okay.
We want roll call?
Sure.
I say, yeah.
No, it can just be,
You're good?
Okay. All in favor, say
getting it
aye.
down.
I told y'all. I warned you.
Second through,
Item G, financial results
can't
update.
start,
Make it quick.
Does that cover the?
I told Headley to be out by 7:20, and I figured that out.
You sure?
Yes.
All right, I'm on the one page, that page right there, summary. General fund, if you look at, again, the yellow highlighted, you have the revenue expenditures and then where we are currently. We're $35,000 ahead. Revenues over expenditures, last year we were at 217, so we're down about $181,000. The one thing about the general fund that is of concern continues to be, we've not been told by the state whether they're going to adjust our MFP because we have a decrease in enrollment. We did the budget, we didn't know our student count, so we went roll with last year, or roll with what we were going to be receiving. So that number could still be pretty sensitive. I think our decrease will be around $350,000 to $400,000 for the time period of February through January of next year. So about $166,000 would be apples over the current year. Sales tax, y'all already know about that number. Lunch fund is doing actually pretty good. Maintenance fund is right on target with where it was last year. That's all I got.
All right.
60 seconds or less.
Item H, Monica, Head Start update.
Okay, so last month, y'all approved for us to accept those kids. We came back from Christmas break, we had lost 2, so that didn't help. But we've enrolled 9 new kids, 9 new students. 2 of those actually were qualifying income kids who just had not applied. So up to 46, so that's good. We've got some more on there. I reached out to them, and we found that some of the ones who were even on the waiting list just stopped. Like they heard school started, it's full, it's going, and they just quit. So I think we're gonna, and 2 that were on the fence, because 2 I talked to, they were undecided, but they feel better now, but they didn't think they could enroll. So there's about 10 kids left on there. So we're hoping, and some we contacted said no, I'm not sending, it's too late in the year, and we'll just wait and do next year. So we've got about 10 left to reach out to. Like I said, we've had some come up that weren't on there anyway. So hopefully, with the word getting out that they're enrolling, we can continue to pick up. And 2, we had to clarify that by y'all's approval, we took the over-income kids on the waiting list. It didn't open the door to anybody just to come in. So we did have to clarify that. But so far, it's looking good. So sadly, those aren't MFP kids. But it does look good.
They will be.
They will be.
Thank you, Monica.
Yes, they will.
All right, item I, district leaders update.
You already went through that earlier. I just have
I told them I'm gonna try to break that. I usually give y'all Head Start and everything, but it's easier in the minutes if we have Head Start, and then we have just what's early childhood. So, pre-K, we have 2 new students that have enrolled, people from out of town. So, I think Central got 2, the siblings. So, we have 2, so that's got us at 89. So the enrollment's low there too, just like it is at all the other schools, but looking good. So we did, we had applied for and received a grant that I just wanted to show y'all. It's not really a grant, it's material. It's the Primetime Preschool Grow Up Guide, and when I applied for these, it said it was first aid kits for families, and I thought, well, that's kind of neat, you know, something. But when it came, it's these nice, neat blue boxes, and there's about 7 hardcover books. There's a paint set, and there's crayons, and there's a paper booklet, and this guide that goes through for each book. It has a little lesson they can do at home that walks the family through doing it. So I was like, okay, I was expecting a first aid kit, but that's what they're calling it. It's a first aid kit. Because it is focusing on humanities and things. So it's some really good material, so we're excited. But so we have 89 kids, we have 50 boxes. So we're gonna look at our kids that look at the ones that qualified and offer to them first to come in and get them, and then we'll just go down the list from there. And I feel like we'll have plenty, but we thought it was really neat because it's some really, really nice. They're all hardbound, hardcover books. Like this one is a Caldecott and a Theodore. It's Dr. Seuss. I can't read the thing. I know it's Dr. Seuss. Theodore Cecil. Anyway, they're all like honor books, and they're really good quality things. So I hope that, and we could even, the teachers could even take these and post some lessons and some things with them on their site. So a lot we could do with them. So we were excited about that.
Thank you.
Midnight thing.
Yeah.
I'll just go on with it, I guess. I don't have much. I mean, we're just getting back and getting into the full swing of things. We've had a couple of rounds of district leadership team meetings since we've returned, just to address little things like letdown and things. It was hard getting back after that snow day, but we're waking up and we're getting back into our routine, and principals are in the classrooms. Again, I can't say enough. I know I say this every time. I can't say enough of how hard your principals, your instructional coaches, your paras, your teachers, your support staff, that they're all working and keeping a positive attitude. And so I appreciate that. And I know the whole team does. It means a lot. We have a great group of people, wonderful teachers, like Miss Meredith was saying. The virtual instruction for those who are doing what they're supposed to do is amazing. I wish I could see it because you think the teacher's actually in the classroom. I've seen some amazing things just with my own kid. I was like, what is happening? You know, and how does she do that? And I don't know that I could do it in the classroom as well as it's being done. So I just appreciate all their hard work, and we're getting ready to take another set of interims with assessments with AMET, and the teachers, even with all the changes and everything that's been going on, they've grabbed hold of this and they're moving forward, and they've been just great in planning ahead for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Oh, yeah. The second semester started Tuesday, and report cards are going out either today or tomorrow. I know Miss McKee's ready to go.
She gotta go. For CTE, we are being monitored by the state. It's gonna be a desk review. We just send everything to them so they're not coming in. But for Carl Perkins, and so we're working on that, putting that together. A lot of information to put together. And then for testing, that's going to get ramped up here pretty quickly. Our first set of tests start February the 1st, and then we'll have ACT at the high school in March, and then of course, LEAP getting ready for April. So all of that's getting going.
Rebecca?
Just real quick, I don't know if you all saw it where Miss McKinney shared, but I wanted to highlight one teacher, that Jamie Brady, I don't know if you saw that she wrote a grant, that she was awarded from the Northeast Louisiana Autism Society. So we're really proud of her. She got to pick out some great stuff with, not necessarily the restrictions that the budget has on it for her classroom. She hasn't gotten it in yet, but that's always great when a teacher, that's a lot of time and work to write a grant, so it's always nice when they get rewarded for their hard work. So we're super proud of her, and other than that, like everybody said, we're just getting back and everybody's working hard. At this time of year, we usually have a lot of kids move in and out of district, and my staff may not feel this way, but I'm excited. We've had a lot of SPED kids move into the district. It's a lot of work on my folks, and especially because at this time of year we have a lot of early childhood evals that are finishing up, so we're picking up a lot of kids, and I know it's a lot of work, but when you look at that bottom line, we need our numbers to stay strong, and this has really been a help right now, so we're glad to see that.
Thank you, Ms. Beardy.
Yeah. All right.
That's it. All right. Item J is the superintendent's report.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. Appreciate all of you. This is School Board Appreciation Month, and so we're planned out to recognize you all month long. You have a little gift on your table in front of you. Baron, yours will be in the mail or to pick up, but Kaylee put together and made some masks for you just to appreciate the work that you do. And then you have a little certificate in there as well. So thank you. The decisions, especially after a night like tonight, are very difficult to make. We put out today, we are short bus substitute drivers, and so when that happens and we can't find enough drivers, we have to cancel routes for a short period of time, which puts people out and causes them to call you and complain because of that. So we're trying to work on that. We did put out an advertisement today on Facebook, so if you know of anybody who would like to be a substitute bus driver, we're just trying to encourage people to do that.
I would like to see, since I don't have a driver, I would like to take your driver and let them drive my children. I'd like to take your bus driver, or yours. I think you should rotate it around.
As far as who doesn't have, basically it's just based on who's quarantined, and
Well,
this is
the bus driver, just take the bus driver off another route. Let some of these big populated areas, let's take that bus route.
well, and this is not the first route we've closed.
Yeah, well, let's take that bus driver that's got all those kids in that bus and let them not have a driver for a while. And then y'all get all those phone calls.
I see her point now.
So help us recruit some bus drivers.
You know them all
if
now,
can.
you say,
I sure do.
The last thing I wanted to let you know is that we started a book study with our leaders called Lead Like a Pirate. We started that on Tuesday, and so we're going to be calling in our leadership teams every 2 weeks just to try to keep everybody excited. The mission in this book is to make school great, make school amazing for kids. We're struggling with attendance, we're struggling with grades right now, we're struggling with kids, their social life has been ripped from them, and so what can we do to try to bring some joy back to our classrooms? And so I'm starting with the leaders, and so we kicked that off, and I'm very excited about the work that we'll be doing together, just to try to work through this COVID and make school amazing for kids.
Oh, I'll just go right ahead and tell you that I think that is a wonderful idea. But I'll just go ahead and tell you, I don't think this board would be interested.
And lead like a pirate?
No.
Okay, Kaylee, do you want to talk about?
I do. So the LSBA is putting on their annual conference like they do every year. This year it will be in Shreveport, taking place March 7th through the 9th, which is a Sunday through a Tuesday. And so registration opened at the very beginning of the year. If you want to go, let me know so I can register you. The registration ends February 20th, but I would like to go ahead and get, if you're going to go, I'd like to go ahead and get the hotel reservations made and get you registered. So if you could just let me know in the next few weeks. But If you wanted to go, I got an email the other day, this is all in your packet, and you probably got it in the email too, but they're offering early bird sessions, and I have to register you for the early bird session. So if you're going, let me know, and if you want to go to any of the early bird sessions, I have to know because you've got to be registered for those. So,
if I can interject, for those of you, so we have some new board members, and so those of you who've been to the conference, if you'll kind of, let them know, I went last year, it was like the weekend after I was hired, and we had a blast. We learned a lot. It gave us a nice opportunity for us to sit and eat together and to go to, and do some real planning for our district. So any board members want to talk about?
well, and if I can add, you are required as a board member to get 6 hours of continuing education each calendar year. And sometimes it's hard to get because like this year, there wasn't a lot of opportunities, but you all got them. But if you go to the conference, you're almost guaranteed to get your 6 hours in a 2-day period. And plus you'll get your ethics training that you're required to have too down there. So you'll get your hours plus some and a lot of, learning opportunities.
Any board members who've been, you want to say anything to other board members about it?
Well, I think it's worth it. You get an opportunity to visit with other board members in other parishes and see what they're doing there. And most of them are, wanting to talk about it, things that are going on. So it's worth going to, no doubt. Now, it depends on how scared you are of COVID.
Yeah, I'm sure that's in here somewhere. I'm sure it's gonna be probably.
Well, there's talk now, there probably won't be near as many this year.
I think that they're limiting, from what I've read in there, they're really trying to spread everybody out and make sure that they follow the protocols.
Yeah.
I know that I went to a superintendent's conference in Baton Rouge at the same place that we had the last school board, and they had everything very social distanced and lots of protocols in place and masks and all that.
And especially if you're in the new building, really helps.
Do y'all pretty much stay at the same hotel?
Yeah. What hotel?
I believe it's at the conference, like it's in the.
Was it the Hilton?
I think it's the real
The Hilton, but if you don't get restroom time, it's
You have a
at,
second, it's called a fallback hotel or something, Sam's Town maybe? But I think you don't have to walk, so it's in the Hilton, so you can stay in the Hilton. But if they fill up, it would be at I forget what they call them, a fallback hotel, whatever they call it. But that's not on here, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Nancy got me that.
I don't have to think about it. Mike, I'll find a ride.
You can ride with me, but you gotta ride in the back seat.
Trust me, she makes you.
I think
She's not even kidding.
Rebecca's ridden in the back seat of my car too.
With a mask on.
Are you girls going?
Yeah, we can talk, you just can't get 6 feet, we can talk.
Yes, I'm going.
You're not going home overnight.
Tell the secretary I'm going.
You're going.
I'm registered.
So you got room if I did want to go?
Huh?
You got room if I did want to go? Are you? All right. Let me check
Randy might let
on
you
work.
ride in the
Let me
front
check on
seat.
work. I need to do this.
Very back of
Let me check on work and I'll let you know for sure.
Okay.
What day is it?
7th through the 9th, the Sunday through Tuesday.
March?
Yes, sir.
Or we go back on Tuesday, right?
Yes, sir. Let's see what's on. Okay, let's see what's on the 7th. So the 7th
I think Simmer's
is.
gonna ride with me. I think
We're
he's
fixing
gonna
to
go.
we'll be home in 2 hours.
I mean, you could. Yeah. So,
I don't think so. Like he said, he's come over.
Can we take our spouses or?
Yeah, you can take your spouses, yes. Yes. you
Okay.
can. Yeah.
Okay, I'll read it.
yeah, you'll have.
Okay.
She'd probably have paper towels.
And I got Carrie in on too.
Hey, she gonna do the virtual teaching from the hotel room.
I guess so, but I'd have Carrie in then. I probably will, but I'll have to let
Just
you
let me
know.
know. Okay.
Yeah, we got item K, which would be board comments.
That's all I need to say today.
We're exhausted.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'm so moved.
I second.
All right, good deal. Thank y'all for powering through.